Kimspiracy.
Yes, we are all going to die. I promise you that at some point, your soul will depart your flesh, which will then return to the dust of the earth from whence it came. Your death may occur through sickness. You may die in a car accident. From old age, you could contract the coronavirus, but our flesh is going to return to the earth. It's a fact. From the moment we're born, we begin to die. But let's talk about the coronavirus, and let me earn my conspiracy wings today. Information surrounding the novel coronavirus is so out of control that the World Health Organization is holding talks with Google, Facebook, and Amazon to tackle the spread of misinformation surrounding the virus. This includes people who post about it being a fad disease like Zika, Ebola, etc. Those that suggest it was created by the government, any government, the Chinese government, the U.S. government, the Canadian government, they've all been named. Are those who try to help, God love them, but offer cures that suggest that coronavirus can be treated with oregano oil. So while a pandemic threatens the globe, those much smarter than us have declared an infodemic and have urged big tech to take a war stance in combating fake news. YouTube has magnanimously announced that they will immediately demonetize any video containing the word coronavirus. But since this virus was introduced to the world through the media, including social media platforms, which we know work in tandem with legacy media to establish narratives surrounding the virus, we've seen videos of empty cities, eerie videos. We've seen cities where people are lying dead in the street in numbers that can't make any sense with what China is telling us. And we watch in wonderment as our media, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, goes along with the official numbers from the Chinese government. We've seen people who appear to be fine suddenly collapse to their death. There's been videos of people breaking quarantine in China and having their neck broken in the street after they're pulled out of their car from Chinese police. We've even seen communist Chinese officials weld building doors shut. We've heard leaked telephone conversations smuggled past China's extremely tight control of information on the internet that says crematoriums are burning bodies 24 hours a day. And they admit the Chinese government is lying about the severity of this disease. Chinese journalists and whistleblowers either come up missing or die. There have been as many as 750 million under quarantine, and there have been as few as 35 million under quarantine. We don't know, but regardless of the actual amount, either number represents the largest quarantine in history. There's various reports of how long the virus can incubate. Initially, we were told 14 days, but recently the Business Insider decided to wreck everybody's world and published an article that suggests the incubation period could extend into 24 days. test kits can be fooled, and the ones China sent to America, here's a shocker, are ineffective. CT scans have shown full infection in both lungs of numerous patients, despite the China-made testing kits showing negative for coronavirus. How can we possibly protect ourselves and our family from a virus that nobody seems to understand? It's enough to make you crazy. Evidently, you can exhibit no symptoms and then die 2 days later. There's a shortage on face masks globally made in China, despite the frightening revelation that face mask won't do you any good because the virus can be transmitted through your eyeballs. And maybe this coronavirus will be the pandemic that finally wipes out a large percentage of the Earth's population, as did the bubonic plague and the Spanish flu. But you know what I have to remind myself and continually stay in prayer about is that I should not be surprised, because Jesus tells us in the latter days, specifically in Matthew 24:7, that there will be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places, and these are the beginning of sorrows. However, during the World Economic Forum, a speaker referred to the virus as a slow-moving tsunami, yet President Trump doesn't seem bothered by it, and while he assures us the government is monitoring it, he expects the virus to die down when it gets warmer. Then we see American citizens being brought home from infected regions in China, being repatriated by people dressed up in pressurized biohazard suits, which leaves me to worry and wonder about what I'm going to do if the virus gets out of control, because I don't have a pressurized biohazard suit like that. For all of the variables I don't know, I do know this. China will lie to the media. China will lie with the media. And they'll both delight in lying to us. And why would we be so stupid as to believe what they say anyway? But before we move past the initial spread of the disease, which we do know Wuhan is ground zero, let's rewind a couple of months to October the 18th, 2019, when the 7th Annual Military World Games, featuring 10,000 military athletes from 110 nations, including 280 military athletes and staff sent on behalf of the U.S. delegation, performed in the military games, hosted by none other than the good folks in Wuhan, China. And I'll be honest, I never even heard about Wuhan, China until before the news told me that bat soup from there had made someone sick. On that exact same day, Event 201 occurred here at home in New York City. Event 201 was a high-level pandemic exercise between some of the brightest minds in the government and private sector. Event 201 was hosted by Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, World Economic Forum, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I do find it ironic that the event's fictional disease was called CAPS, C-A-P-S, and the pandemic threat we face today is a coronavirus due to the virus's appearance of a crown also worn on the head. Fast forward to today, February the 18th, and the media promises a pandemic threatens the world from an extremely close distance. There are 75,000 people known to be infected, and over 2,000 have died. The Diamond Cruise Petri dish cruise passengers have been allowed to disembark despite new cases being diagnosed every single day. I kept asking myself that question and waiting on an article that was updating reading the situation to tell me that obviously when someone tests positive for the coronavirus, the 14-day quarantine period starts over, right? I kept waiting on them to say that, but evidently it is not the case, and it was a 14-day quarantine. The top health official at the National Institute of Health admitted the decision to evacuate Americans from the Diamond Princess cruise was a mistake after 14 asymptomatic individuals doubled the infection rate in the United States. We're told that 5 people from the ship were testing positive for the coronavirus every hour, yet American officials swooped in, broke the quarantine, only to later admit something went awry. Does that make any sense to anyone? It sure doesn't make much sense to me. The Chinese government has blocked outside assistance and refuses to share critical information about the virus. Yet Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton has been criticized for suggesting that China has been lying from the beginning and continues to lie today. There is evidence that the coronavirus was bioengineered in one of those 2 level 4 super Wuhan laboratories, and epidemiologists have demonstrated that several of the original cases did not have any contact with the wet food market. Senator Cotton stated with more certainty than anyone else I've heard speak on the coronavirus that the virus went into the food market before it came out of the food market. Senator Cotton has been accused of trying to spread fear and panic. He denies those accusations and says he is concerned by the unknown, as am I. In fact, I can appreciate Senator Cotton's concern after the chair of Harvard University's Chemistry and Chemical Biology Department and 2 Chinese nationals, one of which was caught smuggling biological samples out of a lab, were charged by the Department of Justice in January of this year with aiding the People's Republic of China. Senator Cotton is not allowed to raise the alarm, but the media routinely rings the bell every 15 minutes. I don't feel educated by the media's reporting on what is known about this virus. I feel harassed. I feel confused, on edge, uneasy. And you know what? That's exactly what they want, because it makes me easier to manipulate and control. So I have to pray often not to allow the world to suck me into the world where anxiety and fear rule the day, because God's not all about anxiety and fear. If you're feeling anxious and fearful, you ain't feeling God. So I have to remind myself, come out from among the world. At the end of the day, we're not going to be told the truth about anything other than what they want us to know. So why bother? In the meantime, the media shows us video of China sanitizing its cash. It is interesting that 97% of China's currency is digital and only 3% is paper. So could this be an excuse to eliminate all paper currency? Will China emerge as the first cashless society? Interesting to watch. We know the fingerprint of the virus contains HIV markers, and now we see a big push from pharmaceutical companies to treat infected victims with their new antiviral drugs. Did you know that 80% of pharmaceuticals in the U.S. come from China? Retail revenue is projected to decrease by 75 to 90%. Apple announced it does not expect to meet March revenue projections, and the Jaguar Land Rover UK factory is expecting to run out of Chinese parts in a few weeks. I've spoken with business owners here where I live who are already being told not to count on all of their orders from China to arrive, but the effects of the coronavirus are already here. 2/3 of the Chinese economy has effectively shut down. Bill Gates has been preaching the doom of a global pandemic for several years. He must be quite the visionary because it seems to be unfolding exactly as he predicted during his TED Talk interviews on YouTube. And since Gates owns both technology and pharmaceutical companies, perhaps he'll develop a vaccine outfitted with an RFID chip to vaccinate and monitor individuals so that we can prevent future pandemics. Maybe nanotechnology will enable us to screen individuals who have been vaccinated against these novel viruses with a quick temperature scan to the forehead. The Chinese people sure do seem patient to wait in line for their turn at the thermometer. Are we being acclimated to make concessions we wouldn't ordinarily make if we were not under duress from fear of contracting a virus that we're told is a pandemic in name only? As conversations and speculation and misinformation surrounding this novel virus mount, resist the urge to feel fearful. God is in control, and if Jesus warned us what to expect as we witness the collapse of nations, societies, and individuals that he spoke of in Matthew 24, why are we surprised? He says in 5:8 that till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. And if you're a Christian and you find yourself filled with worry and fear over the unknown, not just limited to the coronavirus, I completely understand. Satan attacks me the same way, but go back to the Word. And if you don't have a personal relationship with Jesus, but you're scared to death of the unraveling world you see unfolding before you, pick up the Bible and just start reading. Any of the books are edifying, but John 1 is a great place to start. I can't tell you what we should anticipate from this latest attempt to unsettle the individual's peace of mind. Never let a tragedy go to waste. Rahm Emanuel was once quoted as saying that. Sadly, many in our government adhere to this philosophy. But I can tell you that it is a lot easier to weather these frightening moments in man's history through the lens of Jesus Christ than without. Cheer up, be happy, go in the woods, be at peace.
Kimspiracy.